Okay, I call this meeting of the Scotts Valley Advisory Committee to order at 17 after 5. I'll ask for a roll call. Jody?
Yes.
And Joel?
Here.
And Cornelia? Jarrett?
Here.
And Greg. We have a full house. We do have a quorum established, so I receive a motion for the acceptance as the agenda that's printed. Do I have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second, third.
Okay, so Jody, Joel made the motion to accept the agenda and second by Cornelia. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Nays, motion carries. Agenda is accepted as printed. It's now time for public comment. Members of the public can comment on anything that's not an agendized item, and you have 3 minutes to do that. I ask if you do want to address the council, please step and say your name and the location you live, and you have 3 minutes. Anybody from the public have anything to offer? Joe, Sky? Yeah.
You gotta turn it on though, Sky. Turn it on. Thanks, sir. There's a switch on it? Yeah. Facebook, everybody.
What's he doing?
The light's not.
Taking pictures of us?
Testing.
Pretty.
Test. Check.
Good. Okay, so I just noticed that the 0 to 5 foot regulations for vegetation management are back in the news, and there's been some debate about it. About I don't know if you know, Berkeley went ahead of the deadline and they did it, and they had a lot of pushback on it. I think it was Sonoma County now is considering it, and they're modifying the 0 to 5 foot thing. So I'm not really suggesting we need to talk to it immediately, but I think we should get that agendized on the agenda for recurring visiting it, because it's going to be a huge issue in Scotts Valley, I would imagine.
Sky, are you referring to the 5 foot clearance from structures of any flammable vegetation, that part?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
that's a correct explanation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 0 to 5, which I'm just looking at what they said, and I watched it kind of in Berkeley because I came from Berkeley, and I heard some of the debate over it there. Man, and people just had a fit about it, and they're really pushing back over it, and it was totally transformed their landscapes. And I go look at my house, and I go, well, wait a minute, 0 to 5, I got a bunch of stuff there too, and so it's a significant thing. But I did see now, just the breaking news is they're going to modify it. So I think this advisory council, we should get that on our radar. I don't know exactly what that means, but we got a CAL FIRE connected man there. He can keep us up on that.
Right, we'll try to see where that goes. I've been watching it.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Sky. Anybody else have any comments? Anything not on the agenda? Not hearing any sign? We'll go on to the next item, which is our guest speaker. This is, today we have a pleasure having a consulting ecologist, biologist presenting on the BLM projects and other aspects of Scotts Creek's watershed. He has lots of years of experience in this area. So let's welcome Larry Ray for the presentation today. Mr. Ray?
Yes. Thank you for coming.
So am I gonna need to speak into the mic also?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
You can grab
Yeah,
that.
you can just, here, pass me this one. Here you go.
Here, we got that one.
I got another one. Thank you.
Okay. This isn't so much for all of you as it is whoever else is out there in the world, right?
Is there anybody online by chance?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll speak in the microphone here regardless. Are you recording it or anything?
Yeah, we're
Recording it, okay.
Hold on. Or no, go ahead.
Okay, so hi, yeah, my name's Larry Ray. I'm an ecologist. I've done a lot of work in the Scotts Creek watershed over the last, say, 20 years or so for different organizations and government agencies and so on. Originally, I had asked to come to address this group about a concern that I have for a really nasty, noxious weed that grows in the BLM land that's called goat's rue. And I'll start with that and just go over that real quickly. Let's see if I can find my, oops, I got it lost in here. I've been too busy working. So goat rue is an invasive non-native plant originally from the Middle East. It was unfortunately brought into this country for feed for goats, as you might guess. Big surprise. It brings in the milk of the females, and so it was used as a feed supplement to help them lactate. However, it got into feed and got into California in an unknown way. I actually discovered the very first place that it's been seen in the state of California, which happens to be up in the BLM South County Mountain Unit. I can't seem to be able to find my presentation here. I don't know where I lost it. Give me just a second here to try and find it. I'll just keep talking. So, as I said, goat rue is an invasive non-native plant. It is poisonous to livestock and wildlife, and there's a lot of it up there in 8 Mile Valley in particular, although it started on private property just above the Mendocino County line on a ranch just to the west. And this thing, when I was doing a restoration plan for the 8 Mile Valley project, it showed up in the valley and I didn't know what it was. So it took me quite a bit of time to actually figure out what it was because I wasn't familiar with the plant. But it is a federally listed, A-listed noxious weed, meaning it's like one of the bad boys. Like it's something you definitely don't want. And if you have it, there's a federal law that says you must eradicate it. So BLM's been eradicating it now since 2016. And unfortunately, because of not enough funding and really not enough manpower, it's barely been able to keep it under control from moving. And when I say that, I mean that it's moving down the watershed, and it is now, for the first time this last year, we found it outside of BLM land and almost all the way to Blue Lakes. So I know all of you probably are familiar with
Is
that
that it?
length of creek. That's it.
It's so pretty.
That length of creek all the way from the BLM's property line all the way to Blue Lakes is probably a good 10 miles. So we surveyed that last year and found very few plants, but in the spots that was accessible, we did locate it. Let's see if I got a few pictures here.
Oh, it has to be moist.
It does like water. It is a riparian plant, so it likes to be wet. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen up there. It's kind of grainy blowing it up. That's a clump of it. That's more of it. You can see how it chokes the creek completely out.
So how tall does it get? How big
Maybe
are the?
6 feet.
Oh, that big?
Yeah, it gets up to 6 feet tall. It kind of depends on where it's growing. Okay, so that is the same spot that you couldn't see through once we hand pulled them. So we've been hand pulling it and clearing it out and getting it out of the watershed. The problem is it's got seeds that last for a good 20 years. So they get into the environment, it takes 20 years before that seed won't germinate anymore. So it's a long-lived seed. It's going to be persistent in this watershed for a long time. And I guess the reason that I really wanted to bring it to your attention is because now that I know for certain that it is out and about, here we go, into the watershed, the bigger watershed, it's now on private property. I know I got a certain thing I gotta click here to get it. Display mode.
Slideshow?
Which one is it for display mode? Anybody know?
Slideshow, there you go, from current,
Oh, thank you.
from beginning,
From beginning.
there you go.
I haven't done this for a while. Okay, so we did start this project with the BLM. It's funded by the Ag Department. So I've been working with the Ag Department on trying to get this thing under control.
They still sell the seeds.
Yeah, they probably sell plants too somewhere.
Yep, shop now, good deal.
So you see it online, huh?
Yep.
Well, that's news to me. That's disturbing.
Okay.
Let's see now, how do I?
How about your arrow on your keyboard, will that work?
I don't do this very often, so I'm stumbling around, but. So there we go. That's a nice picture of it. Got a really, like she was mentioning, what is your name?
Cornelia?
Cornelia. Cornelia was saying, oh, it's a pretty flower. It kind of is. It's in the pea family, so it's a legume. And it's got kind of a pea-like structure to the flower. And they're kind of pretty little pale lavender with a little pink sometimes, white. And then that's the nasty seed pod. Ooh, it got better all of a sudden.
Now I can
Did
hear
you turn it up? Oh, okay.
But so that plant is, it can grow to 4 to 6 feet? is
Yeah, it
what
gets
you
as
said?
tall as me, yeah. Mhm.
Oh,
It kind of depends, like, this is in a canyon, so there's limited sunlight.
Right.
So when the sun comes in, it's reaching for it. And there's plants around it and trees around it. It grows in the willow thickets and whatnot, so it's trying to reach for sunlight. If it's got more sunlight, it'll be maybe 3 feet tall. So it kind of depends, but it can get that tall. And that's the seed pod. That's what you don't want to have. Once it gets to the seed stage, you know, then all bets are off. So we're trying to pull all of it we can when it's flowering. And of course it shows its flowers, so lets us know where it's at, so it's easier to find when it's flowering. And then I put together well actually no, this is, there was a PhD student in Utah, because it's also in Utah, who did a very exhaustive study on this plant. And that was one of the reasons that we kind of knew how to deal with it and what to do about it. And its seed viability and such. So it's got the seed biology that this guy did a lot of work on. And apparently it was in Pennsylvania and a couple other states that helped him kind of figure some of that stuff out too. And then the Ag Department did put together a flyer, although I've never seen it. It's got pictures of it with the seeds and flowers and a little description. Now, I had talked to the Ag Department about a better flyer or a new flyer, so I think they might be coming up with something better. These maps are small, you can't really see them very well, but this is the USGS map. That's 8 Mile Valley in the South Count Mountain. This is a bigger, and then I put this red line here that shows the known, at the time, the known population all the way down from 8 Mile Valley to the confluence of Scotts Creek. So these tags basically say 8 Mile Valley and Scotts Creek. So that's the main stem of Scotts Creek. But like I said, it's all the way down to the other gate where private property starts, which I'm sure you all know where that's at. And those are some thickets. Kind of shows it can fill up the entire riparian area. I've got more pictures. I've got tons of pictures. And then we wrote a plan, a weed management plan, and the BLM has a weed management plan. It needs updating. So I'm going to be working with the BLM to update the plan. We were originally going to use herbicides. There's a problem with that. It's a riparian area. It's got water, so we have to wait till the water dries out and then spray, because we don't want the pollution to go downstream. So we've been hand pulling. These are pictures of us just hand pulling. And in there hand pulling in the willow thicket, you can see, this doesn't show you very well. I should have put a ruler there. The roots are like a foot, maybe even more than that sometimes. Now it's not like other plants where if you break the root it resprouts. If you break the root, it's gonna die. So fortunately, but you know, it's well rooted. Oh, this first year we didn't discover it until there was already gone to seed the first year. Well, actually, we didn't get funding, to back up, we didn't get funding. So we had to put it in bags, sit it in the sun, solarize it, and try and kill the seeds, and then take them all to the dump to get them out of the watershed. So that was a lot of work. But fortunately, that was 2018, and there had been a fire, and we still had fire crews. So I was able to get a fire crew of 25 people, and that helped a lot. Then the BLM hauled all of it away. So this is showing before pulling. You can't even see through it. There is after pulling. So you can see how dense it is. It'll fill the whole place up. So it's really a habitat destroyer. Like it crowds out all the other plants and kind of chokes everything and takes up all the space. There again is a close-up of a before and an after. And you can see native plants there. Now the more we pulled it, the more the native plants came back. So there's some silver lining. There it is again, choked and cleared. Oh, I don't know what that's. Oh, these are seed sprouting. See the tiny little plants? So like we'd pull the bigger plants, and then later in the summer, because this place doesn't really completely dry out, the germinating seeds along that edge would just start showing up. So there it is again, same spot, choked and cleared. And then this is the herbicide that we were using initially, triclopyr, and it's a broadleaf, general broadleaf herbicide, but it's not really safe to spray in water. And so they'd resprout, we'd spray it, kill 90% of it. But we've been able to make some headway. There it is again, sprouts and weed. Oh, this is our end of the funding, so we ran out of money. Now this last year, the Ag Department we wrote a grant, and the Ag Department did get the most significant funding we've ever gotten in 10 years. Wow. $120,000 for 4 years. So that's $40,000 a year. We've had half that. So I don't work for them anymore though. So I don't know who's going to handle it or who's going to take care of it. I passed it off to somebody else. But just want to let you know about this plant, and if anybody sees this thing around, let the Ag Department know. Anywhere down Scotts Creek it could show up.
So it's poisonous to livestock but not to goats?
The root is fused, so the foliage is poisonous. So in the commercial application, they're growing the plant, cutting the root off, using the root to make something that they put into the feed. Oh. So the foliage is toxic. The root apparently, I don't know if it's not toxic or if they process it. I've never really researched that, but that is what it's used for. So the foliage is toxic. Now, I'll tell you, in all the years that I've been in there doing this work, never seen browse. I'm an ecologist, so I know what animals eat and how they eat, and I look for habitat and the plants that certain animals like. Never seen anything ever eat it. There was one thing though. When I was in there working, this just a picture of mushrooms now. When I was in there working, there were a lot of bumblebees eating feeding on the flowers, okay? So what I did was I had my crews collect lupin seed from the meadows and increase the lupins in the meadow, because we did a meadow restoration project. So we increased the lupins, and as we got rid of the bees started using the lupins, and as we got rid of the goat rue, they switched over to lupins. So that we made sure we didn't cause any kind of like habitat loss for the bumblebees, which I'm sure all of you are aware they're not doing so well. Bumblebees are really in trouble. I think it has to do with not just loss of habitat, but pesticides. Let's see if I can find some pictures of that meadow. So that's the thing that I really wanted to talk about initially, and then Jared said there was an awful lot of interest about sediment and erosion and impacts to the lake with phosphorus, and that's a huge issue, and I know a lot about it. I've worked on that same issue. 8 Mile Valley was. I was actually involved in, well, now I'm not getting anything. I got stuff on my screen here, but it's not showing up over there. Do you have any idea why, Jared, or is there an issue with it? So let me just start with telling you that as an ecologist, one of the primary reasons that I do my work is to try and, you know, and also I do a lot of CEQA and compliance work, so pollution is something that I deal with, and I've written numerous 319 grants, which are Clean Water Act grants to try and prevent erosion that is specifically tied to, I'm trying not to use jargon here too much, total daily maximum loads of pollutants, a TMDL. So I was involved in the formulation of the TMDL for Clear Lake and the updates for several updates, and I was in all those meetings, and I did also maintain an erosion control certification for many years, so I know a lot about erosion control and sediment as erosion and pollution, and the issues in the lake with phosphorus with the TMDL as it relates to soil-borne phosphorus. Why am I not getting anything on the screen? Just all of a sudden it wasn't showing me anything. So anyway, that's a mouthful, but I did a big restoration project at one of the sites that was identified through the process of the TMDL and the update to the TMDL. And it was 8 Mile Valley in South Cow Mountain. And it was actually tied to the TMDL overview that recommended specific actions to take to reduce sediment-borne phosphorus entering the lake. So this was considered one of like a half a dozen major sources. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I don't recall the exact numbers, and I wouldn't want to try and pretend I do, but it was significant. The amount of phosphorus coming from that one location, 16-acre meadow that was seriously damaged, and runoff was just rampant. The tonnage and the number, the amount of phosphorus coming from that one place was very large.
That's crazy.
So I'm trying to show you pictures, although it doesn't seem to want to flash anything up on the screen right now. Jared's trying to figure out what's going on.
It was just phosphorus from the soil?
The phosphorus is in the soil.
So there was erosion in soil coming down that brought the phosphorus.
I think what they did was leave out the natural waterway for making it a pasture, right, originally?
Can you guys speak in the microphone?
Originally, yes. Do you want her to ask the question again?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
You can repeat it.
So she's just asking if it was soil-borne phosphorus, right?
Yeah, that you did.
That's basically what you're asking. So yes, soil-borne phosphorus. It's naturally occurring in this county in a lot of different soil types. This particular soil here has a very significant amount of it. It's a young volcanic soil that hasn't been degraded. In other words, it hasn't been methylated or worked on by biology so that when the water actually gets to it, it becomes water soluble and it enters the water stream and goes down through the watershed. So, you know, that's great, but we can't see it up there. So anyway, 8 Mile was identified as a major source. We wrote a plan to address that issue and did have an engineer do all the calculations to figure out how much tonnage was coming out of it. We did monitoring for 3 years. We took samples of all the water above and below the meadow, had them all analyzed, did all the math, and produced a final report that showed the significance of the pollution and the plan to address it. Then we did continued monitoring, did the work. After the work, it was a 52% reduction in phosphorus. So it was pretty significant amount of phosphorus that is not coming out of that meadow anymore, a little more than half. So it was deemed as a pretty big success.
Yeah, about that, is that the phosphorus like from the pasture, or is that the phosphorus that ends up in Clear Lake?
Well, it's the phosphorus that ends in Clear Lake, but it's not chemically applied to the pasture. It was actually bound in the soil itself. So as Cornelia was asking about, did the meadow get damaged? The answer is yes. It was farmed, it was dried out, turned into a pasture, used for hay production, for livestock, and diversion of all the water was taken out of the meadow and put into a small channel that ran along one side.
And eroded.
Well, that was eroding over there, but not until there was a failed attempt. And this is, I think, what people are confused about with this specific project and this specific meadow, is that there was a failed project that was done in 2005 that the BLM did, which was I'm going to use some words here and nobody sue me. It was a faulty design, okay? They didn't take certain considerations into the plan that had to do with the soil and hydrology and some other aspects of it. They just didn't do a good enough job figuring those things out, but they learned from the failure. So when my team came in, and I was actually hired through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to do this plan, in conjunction with the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians. So we put this plan together, did all the calculations I mentioned, figured out how to take care of this problem, implemented the project, which ended up being very successful. I'd sure like to see those on the screen. I've got pictures here of prior to the project, showing all the big gaping holes and all the massive gullies and the head cutting and so I mean it was eroding a lot, and it Lenovo. Yeah, it's IBM. She's trying to figure it out. I'm sure everybody in this room knows more about how to do it than I do. Sure.
You said, maybe I missed it, you said you did some mitigation to reduce the impact by 52%. Can you describe what those measures were?
Sure. So we brought in big yellow pieces of equipment and we altered the topography. So this is called a reset or a stage 0. There's a lot of jargon in the hydrologic, geomorphological world about describing how you actually take it back to something that was there originally, close to it, as best you can. And from what we can determine from a lot of study of looking at pictures from the past, you know, all the various things we can find out historically about what this meadow looked like. It was relatively flat. The water inputs came in and just kind of soaked into the meadow. There's evidence that from the layers of sediment that there was never really a stream per se. It was a wetland. And it had a lot of sedges and rushes and deep-rooted plants, and so that all got altered by drying it out and changing it over to pasture. So all the deep-rooted stuff died. All that stuff wasn't there anymore. It didn't percolate water down deep anymore. The water table was maybe at 10 or 12 feet. So After the project, the water level is about 2 feet or 3 feet. So we brought it up a good 10 feet from the level it was at after it got dried out.
And that's just by altering the topography, so
Altering the topography. If you could see the pictures, you'd see these big gullies that are 10 to 15 feet deep with sheer walls, wide as this room.
I went up there when you guys were starting that, and it was just amazing. I didn't see the end, just the beginning. Yeah, it was like canyon
Big
land.
canyons. So what happened with the failure was they did what they called in the past, and you don't hear this anymore, plug and pond was a method of restoring meadows in the past that some guy came up with that was supposedly worked somewhere, I don't know where, because it sure failed here. When these ponds filled up, they actually overtopped the bottom of the berm, and because the soil here was not cohesive, it fell apart, releasing all that water like a catastrophic flood. Once that happened, of course, it formed gullies very quickly. All that sediment went down the watershed, filled up. The area below it was just all full of sediment. So it made a big mess, a monstrous mess. Now, once that level of water went down and gullying occurred, that lowered the water table. It started to scour. The head cuts started to take off. And so basically it means the place unraveled. So once it fell apart, we had to just figure out how to put it back together again. So I've got pictures here of us with our heavy equipment, and we also did a slope analysis of the top of the meadow and the bottom of the meadow to see how much of a drop there was, and then where it is a drop. And once we recontoured it, we also came in and figured out exactly where we would place rock structures, basically down drops. So those significant spots where the elevation would drop and would cause erosion. We put rock there to prevent it from scouring and to catch sediment from above, all which functioned very well. And so, you know, as we went through the meadow and we placed these structures in strategic locations, that prevented it from gullying again. And of course the water table came up, which enabled us to plant plants there that wouldn't grow before because it was too dry. You know, if I was to explain to you what plants were there prior to the project, they were all star thistle and, you know, really dry, you know, rangeland, rocky, dry, hot rangeland type plants. None of that's there anymore. The stuff that's there now, I could show you pictures. It's all native bunch grasses and forbs and things that really grow in a meadow of this type. Very little non-native stuff. 90% of the non-native grasses are gone. I've got pictures of beautiful stands as big as this room of native bunch grass that are now in the meadow. They're all in good shape. And those are deep rooted, 10 feet deep, 6 to 10 feet deep roots. So one of the functions of roots that you need to understand is that they don't just hold soil together, they also allow percolation of water, meaning that when the rain falls, instead of it all running off, those roots actually allow water to percolate into the soil because they create gaps and spaces for the water to be able to infiltrate. So that allows for more recharge, more storage of water, and then more roots grow, and everything just kind of goes from there. We did grow 125,000 plugs of 6 different species of plants that we planted plugs, and I've got beautiful pictures of these huge areas of the plugs that took off, which I'd love to show you. And you know, I'm sorry it's not working. I don't know why.
You did so well in the beginning.
You can hold it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry, of all that silt that blew out from the failure, went on down the creek, I mean, is that still adding silt into the creek system now, you think, or you think it's probably stabilized?
So there was another project done below 8 Mile Valley that trapped that sediment. A huge willow thicket, and another project that addressed the same issue was done just below 8 Mile, and there's a thicket there of alder and willow that's probably a good 5 acres in size that literally trapped all that sediment. When you walk in there now, it's like a sandy beach. Pardon me? Almost? it's like a sandy beach. It's just all this sediment in this area is just completely full of sediment.
So we have a lot of sediment coming down after heavy rains, you know, in Scotts Creek. Is that from the, I guess, BLM property up there? Is that being mitigated in any way that you know of?
So on my computer, I also have a copy of a recent 319 grant that the county was successful in getting. And in that 319 proposal, they recognize significant areas for erosion control that need to be mitigated. And one of those is, I believe it's the first 3 miles of the Lakeport to Ukiah Road, right at the south entrance to South Cow Mountain. As it goes up that hill, there's about a mile of pavement on the really bad part, and then it gets to gravel. But that road is a major source of, it's not as major as 8 Mile Valley, mind you, but it's been recognized as a significant source of sediment entering into Scotts Creek. So the BLM road has been tagged. Now I will tell you that the OHV area, most of it actually drains into Mill Creek into Mendocino County, a big major part of it. And then the tributaries that come off of Oak Flat Road drain into a series of sediment basins that were constructed about 2005 or 6 in the mid-aughts that trap a lot of sediment. So they're trying to address that. But those areas are still seen as potential sediment.
Yeah, so continuous.
So there's more that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so the 319 that the county got actually identifies some of that, but I'm not clear exactly. They're going to study it. Basically, this grant is a grant to look at these issues and determine where, you know, actually quantify where it's coming from, how much, sort of like what we did with 8 Mile Valley. You find a spot, you see it's a problem, you study that spot, you see what needs to happen, then you design something to implement it to take care of the problem, hoping that it's going to be successful. We were in that case, so I would hope, you know. And there was also another study called, well, let me see if I can remember. So USGS did a study, what the heck did they call it? It was a sediment signature study that the USGS did. And that report is slated to come out this year. So what they did is they went throughout the entire watershed, Scotts Creek watershed, all private property, public property, right to that point again where South Fork and Main Stem come together, right at the gate there at BLM land, and they basically looked at sediment in that area and then differentiated what the different sediment types were and the different soil types that were associated with those in the different areas on the tributaries, and determined exactly how much sediment's coming from which tributary. So it's a sediment signature, meaning they can actually determine where it came from. So the upper watershed was all sampled. All those are tagged and identified so that when they did the sampling at the bottom, they could actually look at the volume of sediment and where it came from. So that study took probably 8 years, and I think this year they're supposed to release that study. So I could see if I could get that study to you all so you could see it.
That would be great.
The author has told me it's going to come out, so hopefully we'll get that by summertime, I hope.
Is 319 addressing that stretch just upstream from the confluence of the South Fork and the main branch where the old walnut orchards are? Is that going to be a
No,
study?
actually, no. That was the subject of another 319 that I helped to write with the Lake County RCD. I have no idea if it'll be successful, but we wrote a grant to get funding to do a plan. So if my computer worked, I could show you the pictures of the recent study I did on that area. So, is it Taylor Ranch? Is that, or what's the name of that?
I'm blanking out.
Does
on it.
everybody know where he's talking about? So right there at the confluence of South Fork and main stem of Scotts Creek, there was a ranch there years ago. There's a remnant walnut orchard and some olive trees and
I believe it was the Taft Ranch.
Taft, okay, Taft Ranch. I can never remember. Anyway, that area has been eroding and falling apart, and trees have, big significant oak trees have been falling into the creek, and it's really a bad spot.
Wow. Do you know where that is?
It's probably a quarter-mile wide right there, and it's mostly just cobble and stone and no plants at all. There's no trees, no nothing, because it's just a mess.
Right.
I guess there was some quarrying that was done there in the past. We did do a little bit of historical work, but not enough, which of course didn't help the situation any. But yeah, there's a 319 to actually attempt to figure out what's going on there and what to do about it. And that
Would be fascinating.
may or may not be a significant sediment load. It's hard to say. I would assume there was some coming from there because it is falling apart. But to what degree it's adding sediment, I don't know. Sure.
Are you describing a spot on the South Fork or on the main fork, Scotts?
Where the two confluence, where the confluence of the two creeks come together.
So I certainly stood up there in a heavy rain, and I don't see any remnants of an orchard there.
Yeah, it's up on a bluff, up
Yeah.
on the
Except-
creek bank, on the south side of the creek.
It's upstream just a hair from the confluence actually, and not real obvious.
It's not,
from the-
not
from the
obvious from
confluence.
that spot.
Correct.
Yeah, if you're facing upstream and the South Fork's coming in to your left, it's just up above there. It's not obvious.
I remember seeing the South Fork flowing into the main fork, and there not being any really visible, obvious erosion coming out of South Fork. It looked like it was all over in the main fork.
Yes,
Coming
yes,
from farther upstream.
very true. Yeah, South Fork doesn't have a whole lot of sediment load coming down there. It's a much clearer stream in a storm than the main stem. Now, one of the other issues that I saw when I was looking at this area was that although that's a bad spot, just up above there, because of past disturbance and various things that we could talk a lot about, that whole stretch of creek from there through there is scoured down to bedrock. Like it's just down to bedrock. There's just, because of various things that have happened in the past, it looks like that's gotten scoured out pretty badly. So I was hoping that if we got a grant that we could actually look at coming in there to do something about catching the sediment that's coming from above and actually getting it to start staying there to allow plants to grow, so that we can get native rushes and sedges and willows back in there to actually start holding that together and catching sediment as it comes down. That would also reduce the load downstream. And the velocity, so that when the water's flowing out of that watershed, you don't get quite the fast flow. It slows it down a little bit, keeps a little bit more of it upstream to allow it to come down at a little slower pace. So that when it hits there, it doesn't scour and do as much damage and maybe prevent some of the flooding. So one of the other things that this 319, the county has, is an analysis of flooding. So they want to try and figure out why it's flooding and what can be done about it. It's basically a flow analysis that will be done. So that's going to tell us an awful lot about what can be done to try and prevent flooding. So we don't know yet until there's a study done to try and actually look at some of these parameters and figure out what's going on, so that maybe some solutions can be formulated out of that. But that is one of the major things that this 319 is attempting to do. So the county's looking for consultants to do the work.
Well, no, we were supposed to be having a meeting here tonight too.
So,
Oops.
anyway, I'm sorry that the computer didn't work and you couldn't see all these beautiful pictures of all this nasty damage and the beautiful plants that we grew to keep sediment there, because it really looks pretty beautiful. When you compare the two, it's pretty amazing. I have no idea. You can invite me back, sure.
Yeah.
I could even, maybe next time, I could even go so far as to make a presentation for you.
Or you could email it and we could put it online.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Now,
Something.
I'll also mention a few other little tidbits of information that you may all be interested in. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife is actually doing,
So you can access it.
That's their problem, not ours.
can I?
Did she leave or should I?
They're on-
just-
they're-
All you have to do is go into here when you're all done and just go show only one. It'll be in your display,
Oh, okay.
which is right here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Well, you just gotta hit that duplicate these displays. So your pictures.
Yeah, I can open that up. Yeah, just click that and do that.
Oh, okay.
So what I was going to mention to everybody is that the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is actually doing
Look at that.
a study. Yeah, this is all our big yellow equipment doing the rocks.
All the rocks they put there.
Whoops. I don't know how I managed to do that. Fumble fingers here. They're doing a study in the midsection of the main stem of Scotts Creek in the BLM land from the South Fork up to Willow Creek to analyze the population of fish. So they're actually going to quantify the fish in that whole stretch of the watershed. What species, the abundance, pretty much do a whole fish survey. So they put reaches in this last summer. They did initial survey in the spring and then another one in the fall, and they're going to be continuing that for a couple of years so that they can actually determine what fish are in there. Now, something that's exciting to me is that it's never been done before. No one's ever looked at the fish population in this creek. So I'm really curious, and I've talked to Jared actually, because he's been fishing that stretch of creek his whole life. What did he see in there in the past, and maybe compare that kind of institutional knowledge to what the survey shows. But I will tell you that a lot of the bigger, deeper pools in that stretch of creek have rainbow trout in them. And the upper reaches of the watershed, all the bigger pools have significant populations of rainbow trout, considering those pools are only about as big as these tables. And there's not a lot of habitat, but they're hanging on up in there.
And,
So-
and the tributaries, you know, what do we got, 3 tributaries up there that have rainbow in them?
Yeah, Lion Creek, Willow Creek,
Black Oak Springs Creek,
Right.
maybe?
maybe.
Yeah, used to.
So they all have rainbow trout. I've observed them up there for quite a while. So there's one of the beautiful gullies that we filled in.
Yep.
That's what that meadow looked like. And that's no exaggeration, that it's probably 30, 40 feet wide and maybe 15 feet deep.
And where is that?
In 8 Mile Valley, up in BLM in South
That
Cal
was the
Mountain.
before picture.
This is a before picture. There's another one. There's another one. You can see also the sediment falling in. It's kind of shaded, but here you can see fresh stuff. This whole bank has fell off right there. There was active erosion going on through the couple of years that we studied this before we did the project. Oh, that's jumping the gun there. So one of the things that we're doing now, the BLM is doing now up in 8 Mile Valley to try and improve even beyond what we've done, is to build what we call beaver dam arrays, or BDAs. Beaver dam arrays are basically, because beavers have been extirpated, they're just not around. We come and kind of human make something kind of like a beaver dam. Now, in this case, the BLM was using willows that were taken from some other project and weaving them in and using T-posts. But this area up here, on this side of the 8 Mile Valley, had a fuel break cut in there this year. So now they're taking all of the material from the fuel break and they're actually putting it in these gullies to catch sediment. So these are what's known as process-based restoration techniques. So a huge problem with fuel break projects is, what do you do with the wood? And there's a lot of talk about that. Do you make chips out of it? Do you burn it? Do you make burn piles? Do you make biochar? And there's people trying to extract all these, basically trying to make products, get money because it costs money. But what about in a place where it's kind of inaccessible and it's way up in the mountains? What do you do with that? A lot of times it's just burn piles. And I do a lot of prescribed firework, and burn piles are what people love to do. But I've been advocating, and a lot of other people, colleagues of mine, are advocating for using it in the stream, using it to build these structures and to put into the gullies above the structures to catch sediment, and it's working. I was just at McLaughlin Preserve, UC Davis McLaughlin Preserve last Friday, and we were looking at a project they were doing, and a similar thing. There was a fire, we took wood, we put it into the gully, and it caught sediment. And it prevented erosion.
That's great.
Now it rots over time, but once that sediment's there, plants can grow. And there were plants colonizing all those little sediment spots. And predominantly natives as well. So, anybody have any questions? There's a better beaver dam array picture, and you can see the gully still there. Now that's being filled with wood debris, and because this is basically a catcher's mitt, all of that stuff comes to here, it catches it, and it spreads it out really wide. You can see how wide this thing is. I think it's 60 feet, I think. That's what we measured. So as it catches sediment, then this fills in, and then plants can grow. And we're seeing riparian plants and wetland plants starting to colonize. So as the water table comes up and the sediment gets caught, it becomes wetter, it retains more water, it grabs more sediment. It kind of heals itself over time.
Are you calling that a beaver dam because it mimics what beavers would do?
A mimic.
But there's no beavers there, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
Can you repeat his question?
He was asking if we're calling it a beaver dam array because it's mimicking what a beaver would do if they were there. And that's absolutely correct. Yes.
You mentioned earlier about putting rocks in the ravine to catch sediment.
Yeah.
Would that be upstream of this or downstream?
Well, in this particular picture, you can see one of them just below it, right here. But it's not very apparent. I've got some other pictures of that.
Because you kind of filled up the 10-foot gully, right, in sections.
So, yeah, let me back up.
Check dams?
Yeah, check dams and grade, we call them grade control structures. Basically, where there's a steep grade, we want to try and control it. There's a picture of what we did. So, basically this structure here is designed to catch sediment, slow water down, and because of the change in elevation from the back side to the front side, we want to prevent scour. Now this used to be one of those deep gullies, and we took the heavy equipment and we basically just caved in each side and then regraded. and then put the rock here at strategic locations that we knew would be subject to erosion. So there's one above there at the top. Here's another one farther down, and you can see how relatively flat that is. So instead of being steep side canyon with this big scoured dish underneath that's 15 feet deep, we've now brought that elevation back up to the grade that you see on the other sides. So the sides used to be up there, and now it's pretty much flat. Not entirely flat, but closer than it was before. And there's another one. There he's placing rock on top because we've regraded this. You can see it's got a gentle slope. It's not a gully anymore. It's now been graded into a gentle slope. And there he's placing rock as a rock dam. There's more of them. We dug a ditch and keyed them in, as they say in the industry. I'm going the wrong direction here. So you kind of get the idea, right? That we took the gully, filled it in. There's the gully. There it is falling apart. There's the beaver dam array. Now you can see the bank is now a gentle slope, and guess what? It's got grass all over it now. That's green. And there's the wetland plants that we planted plugs. These plugs were planted every 18 inches. That's a little closer than 18 inches. Because guess what? They started to grow and fill in, and the roots spread, and these are creeping plants that their roots spread, and then they grab sediment. Well, here's a good picture in the meadow of the lupins. No, they may not look like lupins in the picture, but all these plants you see here that have this kind of texture are all lupins, and you can see they're over there, and it's just everywhere. So that's habitat for the bumblebees. Now you see those two willow trees right in the middle of the picture? Those were there originally. And this is an interesting, if I make a presentation, I could do a better job of this, but if you look at this picture back here, you can see those two willow trees in the background, right there. This gully goes here, and then it goes to the left, and it winds around. But that's the gully where we were pulling the goat roo. And those are the two willow trees over there that you see in that other picture that are now not down in a gully anymore. There they are. You can see there. We've brought the level back up. They used to be down in the gully, at the bottom of the gully. And now they're kind of right at regular grade. Let me see if I got some more pictures here. Here we go. These, you're gonna love these. These are really great. Come on. We got bunch grasses. That was one of the slopes that had no vegetation, and now it's covered with these big, beautiful bunch grasses. These things are probably 2 or 3 feet tall, this big. Significant plant with probably 10-foot deep roots. There's one of the rock structures that you saw in the raw. This is now a couple of years later. Look at all the sediment in the middle of the rock. And look at how green it is all around it, and there's no gully. One of those big gullies you saw, that's the spot. That is the very spot. You see a shadow of my hands with my camera. Look at the bunch grasses there. No more weeds. This used to be star thistle. This is now purple needlegrass. And that root system there was completely exposed. We put rocks in front of it, and look at all those sedges and willows. Look at that. Oh yeah. Darn it. So there was a picture I blazed by of this bare. It was barren, and now it's covered with grasses. Oh, this is something you might be interested in. This used to be one of the berms that held one of the ponds that failed. So we recontoured this and put bunch grass on it. And you can see the creek is over to the right.
Yeah.
So this was a pond that broke open and failed. There's another bank with bunch grass all over it. And look at that, in the middle of the meadow, there's wetland plants that came in by themselves, right here. And if you recognized in the previous picture where I said those are lupins, look everywhere you look, you see those gray colored patches of plants? They used to be star thistle and harding grass. So this is a pretty significant restoration project that was very successful. Now, I also belong to another group that is trying to identify meadows that have been degraded and meadows that need restoration, and we're mapping them all out. So we're actually looking for more meadows. So something that you need to understand is that a lot of times watershed issues start at the headwaters. If the headwaters are degraded and you get significant erosion and coupled with heavier flows, then you tend to get damage downstream. So if you repair these things at the top of the watershed, it tends to reduce those issues as you go down the watershed. So that's why we like to start at the top. It's like the obvious place to start. There, look at all those lupins. They're everywhere. There's another rock structure. You can see all the sedges around it. You can even see water seeping out of it. And this used to be one of those gullies. So you see how it's relatively flat, comparatively speaking. We had those big gullies before. These were all, and then you see water seeping out of it, because this is actually retaining water well into the summer. It used to dry in like May or June. I think this was in July.
How do you practically transport all that as riprap to those sites? Where do you get it? How do you move it there?
Well, our contractor did that, and I don't know, but I think they came from the granite rock quarry over off of 175.
Also, it's all hauled in from down here.
Hauled in from over here, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty to look at.
So there, that used to be one of those gullies that you're looking at there. And there's even water in there. You can see it's wet. That used to be, I had another picture of basically this big straight long gully, and that's the same spot. No gully there anymore.
That's great.
So we're running a little short of time, Larry. Is there some other focuses you wanted to touch on, or anything, particular things that anybody wants to?
You have another question?
Yeah, I did have one question. I don't want to get you off track, but
Sure.
Joel and I use what we call the Green Bridge gauge. You familiar with that? The stream gauge on the Green Bridge. Maybe Jared has another name for that bridge.
A particular bridge that has, is it the DWR gauge that you're talking about, or?
I'm not sure of that, but the Trump administration cut the funding off for that this year. So
Right.
we could not look at that gauge to assess the flood potential on Scotts Creek. So now we only have what we call the Eichhoff Bridge gauge.
Eichhoff
It's not
Bridge.
exactly accurate,
Right.
but we located it. So having lost that, do you have any insight of, why is it we had to lose that? Is there a way to re-get it? Could we fund it outside of however it was funded before?
Boy, I'm not the guy to ask that question to. I really don't know a whole lot about,
I think that gauge actually tracked the amount of particulate matter in the flow. Wasn't that right, Joel? That one did have whatever they call it, sedimentation, particulates, it's called erosion. It was in that water.
it's called turbidity. The term is turbidity.
Yeah, there was a measurement on
The
that.
turbidity is what you're talking
The
about.
Blackhawk Bridge Code doesn't have that.
No, that's just a flow gauge. That's only flow. That's only volume of water, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that, except to say that I am advocating for there to be more water monitoring. There was water monitoring, say, 15 years ago. It was a big thing, and there was a lot more of that going on. Several of the tribes were doing it. Big Valley's doing it in the lake now, but I don't know that they're doing it in streams. I think there's some other work going on that might include some of that kind of monitoring, water quality monitoring, but I think we need to be monitoring it more often. Here's the basic issue with grant funding. It lasts for a very short period of time. Monitoring is probably, well, it's one of my pet peeves because monitoring is something we need to do all the time. It's done for water systems that people drink, but when we're talking about the environment, it's very different. It's not really looked at as something that needs to be ongoing and continuing, and I believe it does. Should be done all the time. Anyway, that's just my plug for.
So, just to ask you about these water gauges, there were, I believe, United States Geological Service had water gauges on the South Fork of Scotts Creek and right near there, on the main stem, which are now, as Sky points out, no longer in operation because
Right.
of lack of funding. Did you get useful information from those two gauges?
Extremely useful information.
Extremely useful, thank you. I was curious about that. To me, it helps me to keep track of flooding at my place because they have volume and level height.
Yeah, it has both
Yeah.
flood gauge, height and volume and cubic feet per second, and you can change which one you want to look at online.
Yeah, and sediment, right? Turgidity or turbidity, that word, that funny
The
word.
USGS does not have the turbidity index on there, no.
Okay.
No. But as I said, this is something that everybody needs to be asking to have done, as far as I'm concerned. If you want to basically say, try and look at something that's worthwhile for you to advocate for, I would say water quality monitoring would be something that you should be advocating for, because until we have a better handle on what's going on and until we know, what's being done about these things, we need to have some kind of way to measure how effective these things are being. And if you don't do it, you're not going to know. Now, we did it for a short piece of creek, and but water entering and water leaving, so that we could actually quantify what's coming out of that site. But if you want to know what's going on with the whole watershed, monitoring it in various places on the way down, as you're mentioning, flow is one thing, but turbidity is pretty important. It's just a little more expensive. Takes a little bit more equipment, and they require a little bit more maintenance.
So, I know people are concerned about sediment in Clear Lake. So, because maybe it affects the bacterial growth and algae growth and things that maybe show bad health of Clear Lake sometimes. So wouldn't it be helpful to preserve the health of Clear Lake to have water monitoring up Scotts Creek?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm advocating for. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
That seemed right to me, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So I don't know to what degree the county may be incorporating that into some of their proposals for work to be done in Scotts Creek. I haven't read their 319 thoroughly enough to be able to answer that question. It could very well be addressed in there. I read it pretty quick. I just scanned it over, so I have to spend more time with it. But if you go on to the county's website and look at the water department, they have the 319 grant. Let's see what the title of the thing is. That you can look at and read if you want to. It's just called Lake County 319 Watershed Plan Final Draft Version, and it's on their website, on the county's website.
Okay.
So you can get a copy of it, you can read it and look at it. And they're basically looking at what they've determined to be the most significant sources of sediment in the county, which of course includes the Puta Creek watershed as well. There it is right now, Lake County 319 Watershed Plan March 11, 2025. So they want to do a flow study. They want to try and understand in Scotts Creek watershed how, let's see, where are the different projects?
We'll look at it.
They have a list of them here. Anybody else have any other questions?
I've got another one. This
Sure.
is out of left field.
Yeah.
Instead of having man-made beaver dams, could you have actual natural beavers introduced into that area that make their own dams?
Well, the answer is yes and no. So when I say yes, it's something that people are looking at doing, and there have been numerous reintroductions of beavers in certain watersheds, and there are numerous organizations that are working on that issue. But in the meantime, since we know how well beaver dams do function, of course, you don't have those little engineers in there to alter them and rebuild them and, you know, monitor them, because they do a pretty good job of that. But if we build something similar, it'll provide the same function. And if we're diligent and maintain them, then we can actually kind of do the same thing. But there's one problem. That doesn't retain water. So a beaver would make a pond to have habitat in order for there to be fish and cottonwood trees, and that's not going to maintain that because that does not have sufficient water to form a pond. So in a lot of spots, we want the function of the beaver dam, but the beavers aren't going to be there because there isn't enough water. Now, maybe in the future, if we do a good enough job of getting plants to grow and retaining water and keeping more water in the upper watershed, then maybe there'll be some surface water, and maybe a beaver could come in there. But until there's adequate habitat, we really can't put beavers there because they're going to move on. They're going to say, hey, we tried, but there's no pond. And they also have to have enough willow and cottonwood, and they're not there. So the more work we do, the more likelihood there's going to be willows and cottonwoods growing, because we're going to need to build more groundwater and more sediment and more sufficient proper habitat for those plants to grow before we're going to get those plants. So that's kind of the goal. You want to bring these processes back to the ecosystem and bring back the conditions that are conducive to these species of trees to grow there, and then eventually it'll support them, and then the ecosystem will start to function again. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. That's
Okay.
great.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes,
That was
thank you.
fascinating.
Okay.
Larry, thank you for your presentation and all your knowledge. We certainly want to have you back someday to share. We're going to find certain things that you brought up that we're going to ponder, and I think you're the answer man to a lot of this. So appreciate your commitment to it.
Scratched the surface, so there's a lot more to it. So if we want to go into more detail, or you over time have questions, or maybe do some research on some things and
Yep.
you want a particular subject, you can get a hold of me and I can come and address that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah, very delighted.
Okay, we're going to move on to council business now, and we're going to talk about the general plan, our ad hoc committee's report, and also some thought about the approval to submit it to the Board of Supervisors. Margot?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Who needs a copy, a hard copy of the draft that was sent out with the agenda? I have hard copies with me. If you need a copy, please raise your hand. Okay.
Thank you, Margot.
I read it.
Please.
That's
Thank
the
you,
same
Marco.
as the one, right? Or is it a different one?
Different. So to maximize our efficiency here, at Chair Scott's suggestion, I color-coded the text. Everything in black, we've already covered, and your board had no problem with it. Now, the color-coded text is new material. And I suggest that we go through this page by page. If you have any questions or comments. I also have another suggestion. So originally it was the recommendations were going to be addressed to Director Turner. I suggest that we address it to the Board of Supervisors, copy Director Turner, and copy the General Plan Advisory Committee. Oh, I see nodding, so thank you for that.
Yeah, we agree, the council agrees with you.
Very good. So I do see a question on the first page. I would like to affirm the council's decision, whether you agree that Scotts Valley recommends a closer look at the natural hazard mitigation plan and the development of a community wildfire protection plan for Scotts Valley.
I believe we agree on that. Anybody that doesn't? But I think that's something that's high priority.
Excellent, very good. Do we have any other comments on the first page or questions? I see none. Going to page 2, it's all text that we've already seen before and agreed on. We're going on page 3. We have some new comments in the middle of the page.
Do you want one of these with extra copies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Margot, you know.
The green part?
Green part.
We are covering. And so for those who are following along at home, this draft is one of the attachments to the agenda that was posted.
Are we still on page 2?
No, we're on page 3.
Right, yeah.
Do you have something on page 2?
No, I
Okay.
just want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah, we're on page 3.
And that's more of a protective thing as well as a plan. You know, I think when people move out here, they ought to be very transparent about our conditions out here and what's going on. When people move out here, it should be very transparent what their condition of the property is, what the history of any disasters and so forth are out here. And I think that's the only fair way to be that. So when we look at what you're talking about here, and we talk about the levees, and that's a critical infrastructure as far as some type of control for flooding and so forth, these are points that we believe that the county should take a look at, and if not be aware of it, but have a plan or an idea of a plan of what we can do to support the citizens here.
Clearly, in my mind, the section levy maintenance responsibility and liability is of prime importance. Just a subset of this. My whole plan is to leave Scotts Valley because of this. It's impossible. So.
And Sky, that's just what I said. Basically, we're concerned about that levy. That is a huge idea. If it's in place, we stand a better chance against a natural disaster such as flooding. And I think we need a lot more guidance from government of what's available, what we can look at, and where does that fit in the priority, not only as a plan for disaster mitigation, but as well as a response.
Anything else on page 3? Oh,
I think
Sky.
people need to carefully look at the 4 points, the 4 bullet points there, and understand the significance of them. This is not just a little whip it on through there thing. This is really important. Each one of those is super important.
So do you want the bullets changed? Is it good as written?
No, I think
I like them, yeah.
a lot of people had an input into this, and we want to move forward. And this is what we want to go with.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add my 2 bits to the levee maintenance. I mean, so I'm a part owner of the levee, and I pretty much leave it alone, hoping that since it's been okay, it'll stay okay. But I don't have control over the floodwater from upstream, from the BLM land. I don't know if that gets worse, if it's gonna erode the levee at my place or not. So there's something I'm responsible for, and yet I can't control the water coming down that's gonna cause the trouble. Likewise, when the levee breaches at some place not on my property, and the water comes back and floods my place, which does happen, or at least happened severely in 2019, that's due to water coming over the top of the levee, downstream from me, and then coming back through the gated culvert and flooding my place. So those are problems I feel like I'm responsible for, and yet I can't do anything about it. I can't solve the problem. That's why, to me, the county needs to kind of get involved a little bit more and figure out some maintenance. And the problem with maintenance is, if I'm typical of the landowners along Scotts Creek where there's levees, that's a maintenance item that is easy to put off. I need to get my house jacked up so it doesn't get flooded. That's sort of a little bit more urgent to me. But fixing the levee up is something we all put off, and another reason why the county should be more involved.
Yeah. We need to hire more beavers to take care of this.
Well, I have a question then. So, Joel, is it just for the sake of going through the plan, are you suggesting additional language, different language? Or are you okay with the language as written?
Well,
You want to go back to it?
it might just be a little stronger. Levee maintenance falling to property owners needs to be addressed by the county and its various plans. I'd say that's a recipe for failure, to have levee maintenance falling to property owners. So yes, I think it needs to be stronger.
What do you suggest?
The past history of levee maintenance by the property owners has been a failure. The county should become involved in maintenance.
But that's gonna take some legal research to see who's who and what on this levy responsibility. We have a history of levies out there that either the landowner or the government, either one or the other is responsible for, or they both work together how to do that. And so I think we're gonna have to figure out what is fact as far as who is responsible for what. We don't know that until we have some insight from legal research or opinion that is guiding us. I mean, I agree with you. We'd like to see that, but who, who is responsible? It's hard to nail that down.
Well, I think this gets the question on the table clearly. Yeah.
What was your question?
I think this, and these 4 bullet points here, I think this gets the question on the
I think that's
table
pretty-
clearly,
it's
that this
pretty
needs to
point,
be
yeah.
sorted out.
I agree. I think, Joel, those 4 give us a bite. It gives us a bite into the situation, saying, hey, this is something that we feel that needs to be attended to. It is a priority, and it's a start. And then added input is if they do buy into this and start to look at this, then we need to provide more input from the local folks that know what's going on there, the needs and what the ideas might be.
Well, I think this lays a good groundwork for making future demands as it is.
Are you ready to continue, or do you have a change in wording? We don't have much time. We were supposed to read this at home, come back with feedback. Hmm?
I'm not catching it on the microphone, I'm sorry.
Well, sorry, next time.
So here, council, see if this will hit the mark. In levy maintenance, responsibility, and liability, the second sentence, replace that with the following. Levy maintenance by landowners has failed. Lake County must be involved in levy maintenance. Is
I like
that
that.
stronger? And
Yes.
yet it doesn't say exactly what the county has to do. Not saying that the county's gonna pay for it, but will be involved.
That
Yes?
sounds better, yeah. I like
Okay?
Yeah, I like that.
Council, is that satisfactory?
That sounds good.
Thank you for your patience.
No worries, no worries. Okay, are we good with page 3?
Yes.
Okay, page 4, there's a lot of green text. Top, middle, and bottom of the page.
I have one question, I think it's actually in the black part, but
Sure.
I think it talks about, let's see, about that is moving high K soil, that would be potassium soil, I think.
That's right.
Wasn't the concern here about high P soil, high
Yes,
phosphorus
yes,
soil?
that's an error. Thank you, Sky. Thanks. Good eye.
She comes from a family of chemists too, so.
It's a, yeah, transcription error. Just raise your hand if you're done with page 4.
I think that's what we agreed upon, is what you put in there, it's pretty close to it.
Are we good to go to page 5?
Yes.
Very good.
So you inserted this?
Now, I had I'm sorry, go on,
Oh, no, it's
Cornelia.
okay. You said at the bottom, insert Sky's comment. Did you do that somewhere else?
This is on page 4,
Oh, page 4.
sorry.
Under agricultural values?
Oh. Sky, I need to get that from you. You had a comment about traditional crops and intensive agriculture.
I think that went back to our first meeting, something I wrote, I'm not really clear on what that is.
Rats.
Maybe it's not clear.
I don't have any of my notes from the meeting.
I have a question for the council and assembly, page 5 towards the bottom. Want to confirm the wording. Scotts Valley residents support the agricultural sector and value the preservation of agricultural lands. Introducing a retail agriculture zone may have a positive effect on Lake County agriculture. Are you okay with that wording?
Does everybody know what that means? Retail agriculture?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, I wouldn't know if I wasn't part of the conversation earlier.
Yeah. All right.
It's an option for people out here to
No,
be,
but if someone reads it, they don't know what is meant by retail agriculture. It's just my only thought I could
Well,
see.
and that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
It just rephrase it so that it's, so nobody has to go, oh. What
right.
does that mean, the store on the, or a farm stand, or what does it mean? Value-added products, or, you know, zoning to make it legal to make your own jams, or, I mean, really, it could mean so many things.
An agricultural
Yeah.
zone.
I have a question. Is there actually a definition for that that can be inserted?
I have no answer to that.
It could be put in a footnote at the end of the thing of a description, because now you're getting into a long description of a list of different type of businesses that rings on and on and on, so it's either a yes, it is, or no, it's not, so,
Right, but
yeah, so
You
when
could
talk
put a
about-
footnote like you did down there.
Yeah,
'Cause- Yeah.
the
so right
general
there.
plan is supposed to have a glossary, but
Mhm.
I don't think it was fully populated when the draft was released. I'll
Right.
look
Yeah.
for a definition.
A
And-
footnote is fine.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for page 5? Okay, to page 6.
If you wanted to shorten it, I don't think we need many details need to be considered. It just would read right through there, skipping that part and going right amongst the possibilities are.
Where?
Where?
That's the top of page 6, the red. Leave
Oh.
out I'm saying if you want to shorten it, leave out many details need to be considered. It's just retail and especially livestock operations require more consideration. Among the possibilities are dairy goats population. The middle part is just repeating kind of what the first part said.
Okay.
Many details need to be considered. I think that's just somewhat repetitive from the first sentence and just doesn't be needed, but if you want to leave it in there, it's fine.
The second sentence is not necessary, is what he's saying.
I think it's important to leave it in there.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're gonna shorten it anyway, so the more words, the more clarity, right? I'm good with page 6.
Any other comments on page 6? Going. Sky.
People carefully considered the part about balancing hitch conservation with water demand for frost protection. That's a really important.
And where is that on page 6?
The last,
Very bottom.
Oh, I see.
Over to page 7,
Very good.
and it's in green.
I see.
Color coded here.
make everything black.
Oh, it will, the final. This was
I'm
for
just
those who only wanted to read what changed.
I just would like to add that I think the sentence, I don't know where this one came, the need for frost protection solutions that use little or no water remains significant. As far as I know, the only things that really qualify in that are really structural. So I don't know, maybe that sentence should come out, so
Okay.
I'm just, not
The
just sure what the
second,
goal we're
yeah.
trying to get to there.
Okay. Oops. What were you supposed to ask me about the labor web?
What are your big thoughts on the labor web?
I don't know what
What
you
is
mean
important
by
to convey?
the labor web.
What's the word you're using? Labor what?
WEB.
Web.
What do you mean by web?
I don't know, I thought I got that from you.
Oh,
So in this context, where it is immigration policies add pressure to the county's agricultural workforce, which is primarily Latino. So what thoughts, what important things should we keep in mind Cornelia.
to
What,
educate them not to throw trash from McDonald's down to their camp on the way back. Every day I see those people eating the Hamburger Hill stuff right by my house, out goes the bag, or the straws, or the cups, or whatever. And it's not gonna, I'm saying there's nothing we can do about it, it just happens.
I think that was a comment early on before I was no longer part of the ad hoc.
uh-huh, it was. It was-
Yeah, and I think it had to do with how interconnected everything is. It's like if the labor force, especially the migrant labor force, is not considered, then the whole web, it's a web, like a spider web, or like a spoken wheel. That's what I meant by web. Because it's just all related. I mean, I remember, was that in?
Isn't there a better description or
Yeah, it is.
example you could?
But in 2008, I think, I can't even remember how many tons of pears had to be composted because of lack of labor. And it wasn't just a shortage, it was a lack. Back then, there's an ice raid at the, what's that place called? The fairgrounds?
Oh,
During an event celebrating agriculture, and it had ripple effects, and I think my comment came from the web effect of stupid decisions or short-sighted decisions on people's,
So would that be a ripple effect? Is that what you're?
yeah, something like that, but it was, I mean, that's where my comment came from, and so I don't know, I guess I feel like a sentence in there about the importance of not operating in silos, which this county really does. It's much better now, but it really used to be. Like, the administration, the tax people, the police force, the sheriff, the brokers that bring labor here. It's a business, all that. They're just interconnected, but I wasn't part of this process. I don't want to hold up the whole thing. But that's what, I think that's what I wanted to get at. Because it affects everything. Less than 1% of the food consumed in this county is produced here. It's just one disaster after another waiting to happen.
I'd like to add something to that, I think, which is, I find the federal policy on immigration, of course, the federal government is in charge of immigration, generally, in a general sort of way.
Right.
However, deporting migrant laborers is not a good idea, in my opinion. I'm opposed to the federal policy. I don't, so then that brings up the question, can the county do anything at all to limit the effects of the federal policy in this county on people who are here working? Can the county do anything at all to help?
I have a question, Joel. So what would you like to be phrased in the general plan?
Good question.
I mean, it's a fair question, but for the sake of this
no, it's-
exercise, is there anything you want to put in
Okay.
there?
Trying to find my,
Um,
yeah, we're gonna table it.
Current immigration policies are adverse to Lake County's agricultural economy.
That sounds good. You can just take my thing out, and it's also covered in the next paragraph that's already black.
okay. So Joel, would you please repeat your comment?
Current federal immigration policies are adverse to Lake County's agricultural economy. There's one more sentence in there, Tom, which I could get to maybe, which is,
Does it have to do with McDonald's wrappers?
is what?
Does it have to do with McDonald's wrappers?
Yeah, it's, don't help the feds is what it, I mean, I'm gonna get a little bit into my personal views too much, but the county probably has some authority and independence to not assist the federal government. I mean, you can't disobey the federal government, but there are limits to how much assistance needs to be provided, I believe. Now, so I would suggest, okay, if you wanted one more sentence, it would be the county should assist or cooperate with the federal government only as required by law and no more.
Okay. Anything else on page 7? We're on page 8.
Margot, you mentioned this was color-coded. What do the different colors signify?
I'm sorry, what?
You had mentioned that this document was color-coded.
Yes.
What do the various colors signify?
It represents various stages of the draft and who contributed comments. So it's the color code is at the front. So Sky's March 13th comments are in red font. And some of the changes made after March 13th are also in red font. Green font, hang on. Oh, here we go. Text after the March meeting is in green font. Oh, and Jared's March 13th revisions are in violet. Some violet is at the top of page 3.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Purple.
Purple. Yeah, and there's some purple on page 5 too. Like horizon, one
And
word.
6 too.
Yeah.
And so now we're on 8 and it's all green.
Yes.
Yes.
So, all green. Text since the March council meeting is in green font.
I agree.
So I am confused about the revised policy 3.3.1B, replacement of removed vegetation. I don't really know what that pertains to. It'd be the second paragraph on page 8.
Uh-huh. That policy has to do with removed vegetation for development. So the recommendation is that the general plan should follow guidance in the county's tree protection and tree preservation and protection ordinance when that particular ordinance is passed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, there is no tree ordinance. And so whatever guidance on removed vegetation and replacement of said vegetation is only in the general plan or in existing ordinances.
I guess coming from the nursery industry, I have those kind of blanket statements kind of bristle me.
Oh.
Just one example here. If you look in Lakeport and you see the non-native Cedrus deodora, they have some of the most majestic trees, evergreen trees in the city of Lakeport that compete wholeheartedly with the native coastal redwood, primarily because they tolerate drought and lack of irrigation. So, I mean, I kind of get what you want to include native plants, but I don't know, I'm just not sure where that's going and all that.
What do you suggest?
I don't know, it's a complicated issue to me, I just,
It's a prep station, and if it's something should go through, it would be considered to support it or go along with it, but it does give us an opening to continue to discuss that, so we're not tied in. So it's, what it's saying is, as the new regulation should be adopted, we always have that input at that board meeting to provide our input, should we disagree with it or update it. So we're just trying to follow along with where the county's headed in advance here.
There's enough latitude in there with the word should. In government ease, you have to watch out for the must. That means there's no wiggle room with must.
You could also just say appropriate instead of, eliminating it, because sometimes a native is not always appropriate.
how about should include?
Okay. Very good. Anything else for page 8?
Yes, good job.
Let's go to page 9.
Okay, to page 9.
And Jody Attic is the vice chair.
Jody is vice chair.
Yeah.
Vice chair.
And
And
Joel is a member at large.
At large.
Mhm.
Okay, and then I just have a few notes to share with you. Important dates coming up related to the general plan. April 24th is the last day for public comment on the environmental impact report for the general plan. April 30th is the closing date for public comment on the general plan and local area plans. There is one action that may be of great interest to your council, and that is in the draft of the Lakeport Area Plan. It's on page L133, and it's action L-SSA-5C, and that item is develop groundwater recharge conservation combining district regulations for Scotts Valley. So we want to keep an eye on that one.
Would you email it, and I'll put it in that next agenda?
Very good. And
But the timing is what? Because the
Well,
24th is this
it's-
week and the 30th is next week.
Oh, it's before our next meeting.
Yeah, it's before
Yeah.
the next meeting, so.
But we'll put it in the minutes,
Uh-huh.
the dates, and hopefully we'll get the minutes out before then.
Yeah, and here's another date. The next local area plan for this area is on Friday, April 24th at 1 p.m. It's a virtual-only meeting unless you want to request that it be an in-person meeting. And if you wanted to have that rescheduled, please direct your request to the Director of Community Development. And so, I think that covers general plan for now. General Plan Advisory Committee had its last meeting last Friday. We may meet in August when the final versions come out. We'll see. And then the drafts, the finals will be distributed or actually presented to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Thank you, everybody, for your great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Margo.
Yeah, Margo, we want to recognize
Yeah.
you for your commitment, and certainly
Definitely.
you are very committed to doing this.
And so patient.
We got, like I said, we were at the last meeting, just you, I, and the director. I don't know where the rest of these interested people were, but we were there trying to do that. So she gave us some dates, folks. If you're concerned about it, show up at these meetings. This is the last chance for input. She just gave you the dates. And so that's where the rubber meets the road, is the last chance on both these dates, the 28th and the 30th. If you feel there's a concern, you need to show up and voice your opinion, not wait for us to get here for the next meeting, but to be there. So I highly suggest participation. We're too complacent. We need to be there and be committed to this. So I encourage you to attend these meetings and provide that input to make sure things. Go ahead, Cornelia.
Thank you for the reminder. I think we should table the next item.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up. I appreciate it. So we're gonna table the bylaws and come back to that on the next agenda. We'll put that down as a May 18th agenda item. And so we're gonna go into, quickly into updates, calendars, and other reports. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Yeah, so we were talking about the sediment in the lake earlier. You know, Scotts Creek is the biggest producer of sediment into Clear Lake, based on everything I've learned. I believe that's the situation, but I just wanted to mention the Blue Ribbon Committee has some projects that are starting up. One of them that's just going to be finishing up this week, it's been going on for 2 weeks, is the phosphorus binding treatment that was happening in the upper arm of the lake. I'm not sure if anybody saw anything about that, but basically what that project is they're doing a pilot project in a 400 acres area of the upper arm and putting this substance, this non-harmful substance in to the lake that sinks down to the bottom and is supposed to bind the phosphorus and ultimately reduce these algae blooms by not having the phosphorus available. So that'll finish up and then it'll be tested. They'll be monitoring it for the next year or so to see how it works. There's also several other projects that are also targeted at dealing with the harmful algal blooms that are Blue Ribbon projects that have been approved and funded. Another one being the hypoliminitic oxygenation system that they're going to install down in Clear Lake Oaks. That will use technology to inject oxygen into the bottom of the lake. Then the next one that's getting ready to start is the LG sonic buoys that use a sonic technology that prevents the algae from growing. That's going to be 14 buoys down in the Clear Lake area. And so there's another one that just got recommended by Blue Ribbon last month, and that's the nano bubble technology. And that one doesn't have funding yet, but the Blue Ribbon did recommend it. Hopefully it'll get funding over the next 6 months or so. And then if that one ultimately gets funded, that'd be in the Soda Bay area. So I think the idea is over the next year or so, these are all monitored, and then we see what the science says about what works, what has the best effect, and then maybe we can, increase what's being done with whatever technology works the best to ultimately treat the lake going into the future. So I just wanted to mention that the 2 more will be starting soon, and then the 4th one will come a little later. So another thing that's going to be in front of the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, there's a state conservancy that's the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta Conservancy. There's legislation being brought forward to expand that conservancy up through the Sacramento Valley. And it was basically thrown out to us if Lake County wanted to be in that conservancy because Clear Lake does drain to the Sacramento Valley and ultimately the Sacramento River and the Delta. So we have an item tomorrow that we're taking to the board to see if our board as a whole is in favor of asking to be included in that legislation. And if so, if Lake County does get included, the whole county would be part of a conservancy, which could benefit us in the future for funding for projects, not just the county, but other organizations and tribes could benefit from it as well. Right now, there's no money that would come to us based on entering that. It's just that we would be in there, and when there's funding available down the road and grants available, we could potentially benefit from that. There is a companion bill to that for an increase in some funding, but that is focused just on doing repair work to the levees down in the Delta, not anything else. So just wanted to mention those items that are out there going on. If anybody has any questions,
Yeah, Brad.
try to answer them.
First of all, thank you for your Hopland Road on the trash up there. I think that is a real shame that people dump their trash all up and down there. Lake County is beautiful before the trash was here, and I appreciate that. I hope that doing well. I think I'd like to see something here in Scotts Valley. I don't know how our council could get involved, but I would like to see a program out here where we could work with a group to keep the trash out of here, because every day people are just dumping everywhere.
Yeah, I think last time I looked, I know the Hendricks Road has a family that cleans that. I want to say there's a section of Scotts Valley Road that was still available for somebody to adopt. I'd have to go verify it, but I think there is one 2-mile section that's available. And yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. We do have a lot of different folks that have adopted sections of road, but definitely could use more to be out there and maybe get, Kelseyville just got certified by Caltrans as a clean community because of all the road cleanups and other projects they're doing. Maybe we could get one over in the Lakeport as well, if we can get more participation in that. But yeah, the Hopland grade has an enormous amount of garbage, and my section is 3 miles. I'm only allowed to clean the turnouts where it's big enough to park a car. I'm not allowed to clean the other areas because it's pretty dangerous to be on some of that shoulder, so I just do the turnouts. But I've got one turnout there that I can't, or one area, there's over 500 tires in the headwaters of Manning Creek, plus thousands of pounds of appliances and furniture and thousands of pounds of household garbage. I bet you there's better than 50,000 pounds of garbage down off this almost vertical incline that goes into the headwaters of Manning Creek. And I've been working with the county on trying to get a plan. That's going to be a big job. We've got to hire a contractor. We've got to have excavators, ropes, safety harnesses. It's a massive job that is going to cost a ton of money. So, I mean, I say probably $30,000, which I think is a big amount of money that we have to take out of somewhere else. So, anyway, that concludes my report unless there's a question.
Chair Rasmussen, question on the Conservancy.
Yeah.
You said it might in the future bring money available to the county and other organizations. Would some of those organizations be private organizations?
They would be more, I don't know the answer to a private, but something like the Resource Conservation District, the Land Trust, the tribes, a nonprofit potentially, or the county itself could benefit from available grants that are likely to be available in the future. And the reason I'm in favor of it is because it could complement what we're doing with Blue Ribbon and other things to just bring more money in. I don't see any downsides. They're not a regulatory agency. Conservancy is not regulatory. There's not going to be any regulations put on us or anybody for being in the Conservancy. It's just, it could bring potential benefits in the future. So that's the way I understand it.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
And we're running well deep over the time limit here, so we're going to go through this quick. Next meeting, we're certainly going to bring back the bylaws of the council to look at that and review. So members, please read that, come back with your opinions. Again, I want to thank Larry for being here today with your wonderful presentation of what we had. There was a lot of things we learned, and certainly we need to ponder what you said. I appreciate that.
Well, we can still ask for any input from C to G, I mean, upcoming dates.
Yeah, we're gonna,
I didn't hear you.
yeah, I know, I saw that. We're just the groundwater fire mitigation, Scotts Valley infrastructure, like I said, we're running late on this meeting, so we're gonna kind of, I think,
Well, unless somebody has a quick comment.
yeah, unless there's a quick comment on that, we're trying to move along here. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the council member updates. Any updates from anybody? Joel?
No, nothing from
Jarrett?
me, thank you.
Jody? Cornelia, any updates? I have none, unless you do, Cornelia.
No, I'll deal with it under F.
Okay, and then the next meeting is the 18th. F is adjournment, so what's that gonna happen?
F, I have potential dates for the Neighbor Fest, June 28th or September 20th. Just put that in your hopper and see what happens.
September 20th, okay.
So it's before the heat and after the heat.
Good, all right, sounds good.
Yeah.
And
And our supervisor is offered to be our grill master again. Yes.
and I'll donate my normal little monetary amount to towards your stuff.
Yeah.
With that in mind, thank you everybody for being here. Dodge the raindrops on the way home. Drive careful, yes.
Besides the bylaws that we tabled, are there any other agenda items that you wanted to put on the agenda for next month?
Margot, are you gonna wanna come back with anything?
I probably will have.
Leave your standing item? Okay.
Okay, very good.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Be careful in the rain.
Thank you, Brady.
The time of the meeting adjournment is what? 7:20.